Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 11th in our monthly workshop series on the ForeFlight EFB. My name is Mike Jesch, and I'm a flight instructor based in Southern California. I fly big jets too for work, just like Brian does, but this is where the real fun is, the little airplane stuff. Just a couple of quick little notes before we get started tonight. If you're interested in Wings Credit tonight, if you're watching live on Monday night, March 4th at 7 p.m. Central Time, your Wings Credit will be granted automatically based on the email that you subscribed to when you registered for the program. If you're watching it as a recording, either on Social Flight or on YouTube or on our website, a little bit later on there will be a quiz marked in the description for that program. And if you complete that quiz, then you'll get the Wings Credit that way. We're going to mostly pay attention tonight to the Q&A for questions for Brian and for our guests tonight. So figure out how to work that Q&A feature. We might be able to keep a little bit of an eye on the chat feature throughout the evening, but I wouldn't count on that. We do review that afterwards, though. We get an idea for suggestions for future topics in a future programs. So go ahead and use that. But if you have a question directly for Brian or me or any of the other panelists tonight, please use the Q&A feature. The raise your hand function, we're not going to be doing anything with that tonight either, other than maybe a yes or no type question. And tonight, Brian, I wonder if you can help me with this. We had some guests over a couple of weeks ago, and the gentleman sat in my spot on the couch. I happened to be sick, so I was hiding up in the room. And my sectional sofa has a great big divot in there, right where my rear end usually sits. I need a new sectional. Yeah. Can you tell me the secrets of sectionals tonight?
No, I can't help you with your sofa, but it's a good thing with that divot in your sofa that if it ever gets stolen, you got your butt print right there to prove that it's yours when it's recovered. So you got that going for you.
Good point. Right.
We've also created a special website for this workshop. And if you go to the ForeFlight Workshops webpage or scan this, or just go to foreflightworkshops.com, I'll just show you where it is on our website. Is this button here, Workshop 11 Resources page. This will go away, but this will take you to the resources. When that goes away, it'll still be down here. You can click on Links and Tools. It'll drop you down to all our links. And I've got these special pages for each workshop. So the last one, IFR Planning, there's a link there. And there's one here for today's workshop, 11 Sectional Resources. If you click that and go there, you'll see we have some articles about what we'll be talking about today. Gold Seal, a great ground school program with awesome graphics and videos, has let us use some of their videos, one of which I'll be showing during the presentation, but there are more here that you can see. Also, an article that my father wrote, actually, I think it was 11 years ago, talking about switching to True North, and it's interesting how far ahead of his time he was when he wrote that. And it's cool that we're kind of looking at that now. The Aeronautical Chart User's Guide and a bunch of other helpful, handy stuff on here. There'll also be a link to watch this recording of this presentation on this page. So just be aware that page exists and that there's a lot more information there for you. So what is a sectional chart? Mike was holding one up earlier. I forgot to get one out, but I think you pretty much have a good idea. It's primarily what we use for navigation for VFR by pilots. 1 inch on that chart is 500,000 inches on Earth. So in other words, about 1 thumb width is about 7 miles, or 1 inch is 7 miles, roughly. That's how that translates to. It has a lot of things on it for visualizing the topographics, the checkpoints, landmarks, things that you can see easily from the air, obviously airports, and it's updated every 56 days. The sectionals, and why they call it a sectional, is because if you look at the whole U.S., you'd see there are a lot of sections. And each one of these squares or rectangles is a section and represents a sectional. And when Mike and I were learning to fly, the top half is on one side of the piece of paper and the bottom half was on the south side of the paper. It presented a lot of problems when you wanted to plan a cross-country flight that went over to the other side of the map. And for that, they had special instructions for how you would draw a line that continues on the other side of the chart. And it was very interesting learning how to do that. These pink squares that you see in there are for terminal area charts for basically the bigger cities with Class Bravo airspace. Anytime you're operating in that area, you'll see you're encouraged to use those. When you look at the chart, you're going to see a note that tells you what the standard parallels are. It's a Lambert conformal conic projection. So in other words, if you took a cone piece of paper, basically to make a map of a globe, we have a round surface. Can you take a piece of paper, wrap it perfectly around the globe, and then take it off? It would have some weird shape to it. Well, because of the difficulty in doing that, they've come up with a way to, if you can imagine a cone going around like that, and then projecting a light bulb from the inside out to the flat surface. That's how they make the map. So it's kind of distorted toward the top, and is why Greenland looks so big, as a matter of fact. But to make it a little bit more accurate, rather than have it tangent to the Earth, they have it intersect the Earth at 2 points, and those are the standard parallels. And on every sectional, it'll tell you what those standard parallels are. Now, there'll be a little bit distortion the further away from those parallels you get, but because it's using 2, the accuracy is fairly good, and you're not going to notice any real issues. If you measured a line of latitude right at that standard parallel versus as far away as you could get from it on that map, then you'd see there's a slight difference. So there is some distortion. Again, that's why Greenland and Canada look so huge on the sectional chart. The terminal area charts, those smaller ones that you saw, it's a larger scale of 250,000 inches on Earth. So 1 inch on the chart is 250,000 inches on Earth, or approximately 3.5 miles for 1 thumb width, or 1 inch if you have a 1 inch thumb width. That was a rule of thumb, that literal rule of thumb that my father taught me when I was learning to fly, is you could take your thumb and put it on the sectional, and that was 7 miles. If you're on a terminal area chart, it was about 3.5 miles. We don't need to do that so much on the iPad, because when you're zooming and pinching and zooming, you're changing the scale constantly. Again, these are updated every 56 days, and you'll see on a sectional chart the white shaded box around an area, and it'll say TAC chart. If you're in those, you're encouraged to use those charts, because you'll have much more detail. They can print a lot more than they could otherwise. This is a great image from a video graphic made by Gold Seal. They've donated the use of it to kind of show the difference between magnetic and geographic north, which is true north.
The most fundamental thing you need to remember is that the compass points toward magnetic north, not true north. True north, the place where Santa Claus lives, marks the northern point of the Earth's axis of rotation. It's the geographical top of the world. The magnetic north is different. It's north of Canada, so true north and magnetic north are not in the same place. If you do your flight planning based on true north, during your trip your compass is going to point you somewhere else. You have to correct for that, and the amount of correction varies depending on where you are. Remember that the wet compass does not point towards the geographical North Pole. Understand this distinction between the true north and magnetic north.
You can see that out in the west we have variation of about 7 degrees east, and as you move toward being in line with the magnetic field, it's 0 variation, and then if you go out to the east, it's 7 degrees west is the variation, and it just changes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but we've heard the term east is least, west is best, so we're going to have to convert from true north to magnetic when we're navigating, but that's something we'll take a little bit more of a look at later. There are a couple more. If you want to get a little bit more information, I decided not to spend the time to go into lines of latitude and longitude, and Gold Seal has donated the use of the video from their ground school. It's on the resource page on that, and also a little bit more on variation. If you want to go watch those videos, they're available on that website as well. There'll be a link to that in the email you get tomorrow, thanking you for joining us tonight as well. So let's go to the iPad and look at a couple things. So the funny thing is with sectionals, my first experience with sectionals was when my father was beating me over the head with a sectional in the back seat of the Citabria every time I screwed up or wasn't holding my altitude or something like that. And so I have, I don't want to say the sectional is a trigger for me, but it's definitely a good training advice. The other thing is he'd take that same sectional, we'd go land and have lunch sitting at I remember the Kitty Hawk restaurant at Santa Monica Airport. It's now something else, but that's basically where I got most of my ground school, was on napkins and sectionals, sitting in that restaurant with Dad, and learning just from when people would walk up to him. I'd learned how much knowledge he really had, because they'd ask questions and he'd answer them. And I'd be like, how can I ever get to the point where I know that much information? It was very impressed and motivating for me, but we'd play a game of Stump the Brian, or, trying to figure out things on the sectional that, what does this mean? What does that mean? And it made us go look it up. So that's why I wanted to play that game in honor of him and the way that I learned a little bit later in this program. And it's kind of a fun way to learn, even so if, get with your instructor, with your student, and both of you try to play Stump the Chump with the sectional. In ForeFlight, the entire country is stitched together. The entire country of sectionals is stitched together, and it's hard to tell where one ends and another begins. You can see the white line here that I was talking about that denotes, if you can see around there, that denotes the terminal area chart for the Denver area. And you can see in that white line, it actually says TAC. And when you zoom in and out, generally, if you have it set like this, it's going to switch to a TAC chart. So it's on a sectional chart. And if I zoom in and we get more, there it is. You see that switch? Sectional, terminal area chart. Sectional, terminal area. And you can see the greater detail, the greater resolution. There's another feature that we showed before, but I'd like to show it again. And that's up here. If you click on the settings tab of your iPad, scroll all the way to the bottom and tap on Map Touch Action. There are some options if you don't want it to automatically do what I was just showing you. So at this point, you can just go to Bring Chart to Front with Legends, because at this point, I want to look at the legends for what we're going to be teaching on ForeFlight. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And now I'm going to zoom out, and wherever I touch on the ForeFlight map is going to open up that sectional. So if I tap there, you can see the whole sectional laid out with its legends. If I tap over here, you'll see this one with its legends. If I tap over here, you'll see this one. And you can see they're all laid out and kind of stitched together fairly well. But you can see, when you zoom into certain places, some issues with the overlay. And maybe you might want to go from this sectional to this sectional. So if I click down here, I just selected the sectional that's to the south. If I go up here and click, I selected the sectional that's to the north, as you can see. So just know that you can do that. Sometimes when you're looking at something that's right on the edge and you want to pan around and see the different options like that. And also note that the note near every one of these terminal area chart areas, see if I can find one here. This will be the one that doesn't have it. The note that says, pilots are encouraged to use the Kansas City VFR terminal area chart for flights at or below 8,000 feet. I don't know what the magic number of 8,000 feet is. It might be the top of the Bravo. Sure enough, it is. So you can see, I think I'm looking at the sectional here. If I tap on it right now, it gives me the terminal area chart and swaps back and forth between them. The other thing that you can throw on the map is the VFR flyways, and you select that by going to the layers menu and go down to VFR flyway, tap on that, and when you zoom out, you can see all the VFR flyway charts for a lot of the congested areas, and you can see there are suggested routes for VFR pilots, and maybe a little bit easier to read all of the airspace that's there. And certainly you can see the class Bravo airspace. If I turn that off, you can see the difference. I'll zoom in so we get the terminal area chart. Sometimes when you have touch action selected, you have to zoom into a certain layer level, like really zoom in before you can see it. And there it is. And now if I go back and I select those flyways again, you can see the difference. VFR flyways, it overlaps it on where the, there it is, terminal area chart would be. And you can see there are many of them. Incidentally, I heard they were starting to put these points to identify all the bends in the Class Bravo airspace to define it. And you can see it's a visual point for Bravo airspace, Echo Mike, Delta Juliet, Delta Charlie, all these points here. In case you want to know where they are, you could plot them by using these visual waypoints and staying off to the side. So I guess that's one thing that you could do with that. The other charts there are, if you're going to navigate near Class B airspace, are the Class B enhancement tabs. Now we got a lot more resources in our documents. So I've created a special folder for tonight as ForeFlight Workshop 11, and I've saved a bunch of things here. But the Class B enhancement chart, like for example, here's Seattle's, basically shows you how is that Bravo defined. And if you wanted to know, it's all here. Not for use for navigation, and I think they proudly tell you that. But you can see it's got all of the definitions with both VOR, radials, DMEs, lat longs for the points to define what that Bravo airspace is. If you want to go look at it enhanced, if you fly near Bravo airspace, you really want to know, pinpoint where it is, that's a good way to do that. Another thing in our documents is the VFR flyway charts. Like here's a Los Angeles flyway chart. They show you the routes that they recommend. You can select that. Those are in the flyway charts as well. And these show these VFR routes that they recommend because experts have looked at that and determined that they don't interfere with the SIDS and STARS or the IFR approaches and departures of the Class Bravo area. Again, not something you should count on. Always look out the window. Most important to look for traffic out your window. As far as the chart legends go, that's another thing. You're looking at the chart, you're trying to figure out what something is, you just can't figure out what it is. They do have the VFR chart legend here, so you can always have it handy, and it's got typically what you'd see, some of the more common items that you would see on a VFR sectional. The things that you would normally see on the panel of the sectional are here as well. But close that. Lastly, you can see the Aeronautical Chart User's Guide, which is like the book containing a legend of everything. And that's right here, the Aeronautical Chart User's Guide. And that's this book right here. It was just updated actually in January of this year. And if we'll just scroll through this, you can see there are all of the markings for airspace, airways, everything that you could possibly think of. Sometimes it's hard to find on the 137 pages the symbol that you're looking for. In fact, I was looking for one earlier, and I never found it, and Mike did. It was the symbol for a Coast Guard station. There's one in Lake Tahoe. In fact, while we're at it, I'll just show you that. I saw this here at Lake Tahoe, the CG, and I'm like, is that where? I think that's where the center of gravity of the country is, so that like half of the weight is to the left of that. And no, I'm kidding. So I know it's Coast Guard. I zoom in on a Google Earth and I can see that it's a Coast Guard station, but where does it tell me that? And sure enough, it is in the book. And if you don't have it in the special folder that I have, you would go to the bottom, look at your drives, and go to FAA, and then in here you'll go to let's see, it's visual. No. Which one's it in? I don't remember. The fly charts are here. So what I did was I created this binder for ForeFlight Workshops 11. I went to the fly charts. I opened one that I wanted to look at, and then I wanted to put it in the ForeFlight Workshops 11 binder. I just tap on this folder right here, and then find the new folder that I created, tap on that, and now this document will show up in that binder. And that's how I added and created my own binder. You can also search for it, because I don't remember which folder it's in on there. That's why I put them all into one folder so I can find them easily. But you can search for documents in this global search window as well. And we're looking for the Aeronautical Chart User's Guide. And there it is. So I've searched for it. It's under FAA. I can click it right there to get to it. Now add it to my special folder. And you can see it's already here. So just a little bit about how to use the folders, the documents, how to find the legend for the sectional chart. Very important to know how to do that. What we have right now is it's called a raster chart. It's a digital version of the paper chart. But just to show real quick, and this we're going to do in a future workshop, talk about the aeronautical layer in more detail. But if I put the aeronautical layer on, you can see that things basically details are appropriate to the zoom level. As I zoom in, you get more and more detail. And there are buttons on the side where I can turn on everything that I want to see, and I can customize it. So just be aware of that. And if while you're learning that, it's kind of a good idea to go aeronautical and VFR sectional at the same time, and you can see all these. You can see that all the intersections are on, and that's really cluttering up, so I can deselect intersections. I'll toggle them so you can see the difference. airways. I can toggle them so you can see the difference. This is mixing the aeronautical chart and the VFR sectional. I like to use them both. Another advantage to that is that if I put the, let's put this back to sectional off, and you can see the difference that if maybe you like to use it in vertical mode, no matter what mode you use the iPad, the writing is up. If you go to track up, I can't because I'm not moving right now, but if you were to do that, the writing would stay straight up so you can read it. It wouldn't be upside down like it would be if you're flying south looking at a sectional with track up. On the aeronautical chart, it will adjust that. Also, there are a lot of things that you can change on the aeronautical chart. When you click the gear for the map settings and look up, we got screen brightness, ForeFlight map, aeronautical. So right here is aeronautical. Notice how the titles stick when you scroll. Aeronautical, and you can select airspace here and customize what you want. You'll notice one of the things that I wanted to point out was the worldwide altitudes. You'll see how on this Bravo airspace here, it's showing which side and what the altitudes are, and I really like that format, but you may be preferential to the old format. So go back to the map settings gear, map settings, aeronautical, airspace, and all the way at the bottom is these worldwide altitudes. If I turn that off, you'll see that you get the typical, and you see it doesn't change size when I zoom in. No matter how much I zoom, it doesn't change size of the top number over the bottom number. However, you can change that, I believe. So I'll come back. Yeah, right here. I don't, maybe just for the, yeah, that's, some things will change on the digital chart. You can change the text size right here on the bottom of the aeronautical section of this settings menu. I just wanted to show you that. We're not here to look at the aeronautical chart. One thing that I will show you though is that you, after customizing the airspace and the worldwide altitudes, I'm going to put that back to how I had it. I like that better because I can see it right on the edge of the border. So turning the worldwide, go to the airspace, worldwide altitudes back on, and I get these little tabs next to the airspace. I like when I'm learning it, when you're making the switch, try to enable both layers. And I want to show you first, if we go from, I'm just going to put a flight plan in here, KTVL to KSMO, for example, it will highlight the airspace that's pertinent to your flight. And it won't highlight everything, and that's a setting also. So I just want to point that out. Right now, everything's highlighted. You can see it's all dark. If I go to the Map Settings tab, go down to Aeronautical, and go to Airspace again, and then you're going to look for Auto Highlight. See how it's turned off? That everything is highlighted. If I turn that on, it's only going to highlight the airspace near my route, and there it is. So just something to be aware of. It fades out the irrelevant airspace and highlights the relevant airspace. So let's go back to sectional chart, turn the aeronautical off, sectional on. And if you're going to navigate from point A to point B, I had a navigation instructor at San Jose State who taught me. He said he started the class out by saying, you want to fly from A to B. What two pieces of information, if you can ask me for any two pieces of information, what would you need to fly an airplane from A to B? We hem-hawed, we thought about it, where everybody's throwing out answers, and I'll just give you the answer. If you had a heading and a time to fly that heading, you're going to get from one point to another. Now, how you calculate all that is a different story. We need to do a lot of work. ForeFlight does a lot of that for us. And, those of you learning to fly and doing it on paper charts, you're learning the way to do it. But one of the things that we have to start out with is we have to start out with true north and make some corrections, come up with the heading we're going to fly, correct for wind, and so on and so forth. Where is north? Here's the two poles. We look up here, try and orient it. 90 north, 0 east or west is the North Pole. And right now the magnetic pole is pretty close to 86 north, 142 east. And if you tap on that course, you can see right now they're only about 241 nautical miles apart. You could also go to the flight plan and look at the nav log and see how far apart they are. But you can also tap on a leg to get a lot of information about it as well. You don't want to open up the drawer. So that's where they are, which is interesting. The fact that it's been moving greatly is why we have our guests tonight. The magnetic North Pole. I just want to show you real quick, if you wanted to type those in here rather than just use the saved flight plan, I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. You can use a lot of different formats, but yeah, so that'd be 90 north. Now I gotcha. I'm back in the land of crystal clarity, and we'll say 0 west. There it is. Yeah, 0 north is the equator, as I just learned, and 90 north is the North Pole. Anyway, I think I beat that to death. One other thing that I wanted to show you, that another thing of interest, though, is that within 600 miles of the North Pole, magnetic North Pole, compasses are unreliable. And so those of you who flying polar routes, and I think Mike does, I've done it before, and it's fun to watch the magnetic compass because it just dips and spins, and it's just virtually unusable in that area. In fact, airplanes of today have a switch, and you just hit that switch, and now the airplane's navigating via true, because magnetic is just impossible. So there are a number of ways that they used to accommodate for this, with like grid navigation and things that were done in old days. Now you just push a switch. Even the Garmin 430/530s, you can switch those to true north, and they'll navigate on true as well. It's as easy as just making a quick a setting change on there. Interestingly enough, though, a lot of people think that compasses point to the North Pole. They don't, in fact, point to the North Pole, the magnetic North Pole. What they do is they align with the magnetic lines of flux, which are at your location. That's why we see these lines of variation going along our sectional at weird angles. Like here's an example of one at 5 degrees east, and they go at weird angles. And we're going to see that a little bit later, some of those charts, and I have some of that material on the website as well. But what I also wanted to show you, that there's some other interesting stuff. If magnetic North Pole equal the true North Pole, some people think, oh, if it goes right there, then all our compasses will point to true north. Well, that's not true, because they're still aligning with the magnetic lines of flux on the United States, on the world, actually, from wherever you are. And they curve and they do weird things, and the Earth is not a perfect thing. The iron core is moving around underneath, and the magnetic field is moving, and it's a constantly moving and flowing thing. And recently it's been moving more than in the past. But one other thing I wanted to show you also, before we move on to our guests, is on the flight plan, I'm just going to put in a course from between 2 VORs, between Tulsa VOR and Charlie November Uniform. Is that Chanute? Yeah. So when I put that course in here, we've got a course connecting 2 VORs. When we use VORs, it's very tempting to use the course ring that's around it, the 360-degree ring. And as if you would look at this, and you're flying this route as part of your route from Tulsa up to Chanute northbound, and trying to determine what altitude you're going to fly, you can see that you're on the west side of north for the magnetic course, because that's what we go by, not heading, because you could be crabbing. So we go by the magnetic course, which right here indicates that it's looks like about 358, and it even says on here 358. These blue lines they put on here for airways, you can see there's another one jutting out here, another one here, and these are coming off the VOR, and this one says 358. So if you're flying northbound on this, you would say, oh, I need to fly an even altitude plus 500. So there you are, you've chosen 4,500, you're cruising along this and 4,500, thinking that you're 1,000 foot separated from the southbound traffic. Well, some other person is flying from Chanute southbound on that same line, and lo and behold, that's the 181, which is still on the western side of that. And so that pilot's going to also choose even plus 500. Both of those aircraft are going to be 4,500 feet, one southbound, one northbound. Well, why is it that these are both on the west side? That's a little problematic. One of the problems is that there might be 2 different variation measurements there. If I can go to, we got Chanute and Tulsa. So let's just take a look at, I think I have the, AirNavs here. So here's Tulsa VOR on AirNav, and we look at it and we can see that the variation in Tulsa is measured at 8 degrees east in 1970. So just a couple days ago. And so bear that in mind, that Tulsa is 8 degrees east. And if we go back to Chanute, we'll see that Chanute says and thinks it's 5 degrees east, and that was in 1995. That's when that variation was measured. Well, if we go to the sectional, what's the nearest actual line of variation here, it's actually 3 degrees east. So that brings in some errors in any kind of north-south routing, that because of the change in magnetic north, because of the changes that have to be made to these VORs, and it's not being done all at the same time. I believe there's a tolerance on that, and I know that our guests probably know what it is, that at some point when it reaches a certain amount, they have to recalibrate the VOR. So the answer to this is, if you're going to fly out of here, you want to measure the angle along the line of longitude here, just like you learned when you were learning how to fly, and take that angle between there and your course line and apply, add or subtract the variation. In this case, it's, 3 degrees east. So we would subtract, and then we'd come up with a magnetic course that should be the exact reciprocal if the pilot flying southbound did the same thing and measured this angle and applied the variation. Over here is 2 degrees east. So anyway, there are some issues there. The compass is not perfect. We're doing a lot of changing. I would like to bring in our speakers that we have, some speaker from ICAO and Nav Canada. You can see, if you just look at this real quick, you can see the North Pole migrating. Each of the frames there is the same time period, and you can see it's speeding up toward the end, and I think that's what they're going to show us. I got some of this information from their website. Why are some airports round and some airports rectangular? Well, when we see a question like that, we want to learn what it is. We just tap on that sectional or terminal area chart, bring it to the front with legends, which is how I have it set, and you can see the chart legend here, or we can go to our documents and look at the legends, and you can see some airports are round, some are square, and it has to do with the runway length. And if I were in a TWA airline class, I'd be stomping my foot right now. This might be a quiz question you see later, but the question might be as to why that special number, 8,069 feet. So I'll let you stew on that a little bit while we continue on here. I've drawn a line from the North Pole to the equator. Let's zoom to that route, and we can tap on that route and see what length it is, because we know that that's 1/4 the circumference of the Earth, right? It's 5,400 miles. Interestingly, that seems like a nice even number, doesn't it? Nautical miles. If we multiply that by 4, we'd have the circumference of the Earth, which is 21,600 miles. But how did they come up with a nautical mile? And that's what brings us to this coincidence of 5,400 nautical miles evenly. Well, 1 degree is 60 minutes, and 90 degrees is 5,400 minutes. Well, there's 5,400 minutes in 90 degrees. The equator to the pole is 90 degrees, and it's 5,400 miles. So what that tells me is that 1 minute of latitude is 1 mile. I don't think it's a coincidence. Now I just want to add to our route. We're going to take a little tour around the planet, get to the sectional, but right now, just to enter some lat long, it's real easy to do, and there are many formats we can use to do it. So I'm going to close that and go up in here into my flight plan editor, and we're on the equator, 0 west, 0 north. And I just want to go to 90 degrees west. We're going to go halfway into the hemisphere. So I'm going to type 0 north / it's always latitude and then longitude. So 0 north / 90 west. Enter. And now we've gone 90 degrees around, and we are in the middle of the Western Hemisphere. Midwest, maybe where that term came from. Now let's pop up to 38 degrees north / 90 west. And I know that that's somewhere around St. Louis area. And there it is right there. Again, middle of the Western Hemisphere, Eastern United States, but yet called the Midwest. So I think it's called middle of the Western Hemisphere. So we went up to the northwest corner of the United States. I put 49 degrees north, 123.3 west, and we get up here to the northernmost point. The northern border of the U.S. pretty much hugs 49 degrees north. So let's go further east on that 49 degree line of latitude. So we'll stick with 49 north. And how far west do I want to go? Let me just pull one out. 95.15 west. 95.15 west. Enter. And wait, I thought I was staying on the 49th parallel. Why is it not staying on the line there? Well, yes, as you knew, that's a great circle route. That is the shortest distance between those 2 points, and you don't follow the 49th parallel and cross every line of longitude at the same angle, otherwise you'll have a really long route. That is the shortest distance between those 2 points. It's as if, picture you put a pin in each of those 2 points on a globe, a round spherical globe, and then put a string around each one of them and pulled it tight. That's what you'd see there. to connect those 2 points on a globe. And this is part of the problem of, converting a sphere or an oblate spheroid, which the planet is, into a flat chart. And that's one of the problems. And that's why we have great circle routes. Interestingly enough, you might notice that when you try to measure by putting 2 fingers on the map and you use this tool to measure, you'll notice that, let's see if I can get it to do it here. If we go a greater distance, I might get it to do it. We have 2 points of measuring. We have the top dashed line we're measuring, and we have the bottom dashed line. The top one is 75 degrees magnetic in that direction. It's 428 nautical miles. The bottom one is 429 nautical miles. You'd think they'd be the same size, the same distance, same length, but they're not, because they're both great circle routes. And to just show you why they're different, and you need to be careful about that, but read the one you're measuring with. If I take and zoom out on the planet, get rid of that so you can see it, and I just touch 2 points on here, look what happens to the ruler as you go away from the center. Like when you're looking straight down at the globe, it's a straight line. Like if you were looking at a string connecting those 2 points, it would be straight. If you came over here, you'd see that starts to curve. And that's why the difference between the 2 distances on the 2 different lines that we're measuring. You can thank someone on the Facebook users group. I saw they posted that question. I thought, oh, that's interesting. Something I hadn't seen before. That great circle is why when we go from 49 north to 49 north, that we don't follow that 49 degree line of latitude. Is that the northernmost point in the United States? No. A lot of people think it's Maine, but it's not. In the 48 states, the northernmost point is right here. And we can just tap and hold right here, and you can see, you can click on more and copy that, and it says, well, what format do you want? Well, these are all the different formats that you can copy those coordinates of that point. It's 49.37 north, or it's 49.22 north. So we know that there are 20 degrees, so 49.20 would be like 49 1/3 degrees north. So you can use decimals, or you can use degrees and decimals of degrees, or degrees in minutes, and then decimals of minutes. Several different formats for that. But anyway, we'll just go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and build in a few more points here in the interest of saving time. I went ahead and created a memorized route on here. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll just go to this one. And we see over here the northern Maine, some people think is the northernmost point. Well, that's only at 4746 north. So we're still further north on this Lake of the Woods, Minnesota, right there. If you were to ask what is the northernmost point on the entire 450 states, well, we're going to have to come over here, and it's probably up here in Alaska somewhere. The most westernmost point and the easternmost point are also in Alaska. As we know, the line of longitude 180 degrees is right here. That's where I plotted. So 180 degrees east or west, same line. We've got an island here, which is the easternmost in the eastern hemisphere and the westernmost in the western hemisphere. So both those points in Alaska, Aleutian Islands, we have are in Alaska for the extreme points as well. If we were to come back to the most southernmost point in the United States, I think Hawaii takes the cake at the southern tip here down in of the big island of Hawaii. Coming back over here, what's the southernmost point? Some people think it's Texas, but I think actually the Key West here is probably a little bit further south. From this point, I just wanted to show you some interesting things about lat long, the United States, the globe, the planet. Let's go to Cabo right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put in and clear this flight plan. And we're going to go to MMSD. And we're going to look at Cabo, take a look at that down there. And then I'm going to go from Cabo to Salt Lake City. And interestingly enough, I was making a PA announcement to my passengers when I was flying to Cabo from Los Angeles, and I was giving them the time. The current time in Cabo is, and I thought, what? Why? It's on Mountain Time? Really? I'm going south of Los Angeles. Well, as it turns out, Cabo is actually, you could win a bet on this one, east of Salt Lake City. Interestingly enough, this west coast of the United States, most people don't even realize, goes more east-west than it does north-south as far as magnetic goes. So another thing I want to show you is, let's go to Salt Lake City. Let's go Tahoe to Los Angeles. And it's kind of the same thing. What's further east, Tahoe or Los Angeles? Look at that, Los Angeles is. Just fun facts. There's absolutely nothing you can do here except win a bet with that information. Let's go ahead and put in a flight plan from San Francisco to Los Angeles, and then a visual point, VPLHP, which is the Huntington Beach Pier. And I think I've got, no, let's just type it in. I don't have it there. So let's just go SFO to KLAX 2, and these visual waypoints, let's say I don't know it, I don't remember what it is, and I don't want to type it. I want to look down here for the Huntington Beach Pier. And when you look at these, you'll see that a word is underlined. Whenever you see a word underlined, that is the name of the visual waypoint. In this case, VPLHP. And we're going to look at that in a second. But sometimes it's an airport. Sometimes an airport name is underlined, and that's because you'll probably see a flag near it. It's also a VFR checkpoint, and the name of the airport is the name of the VFR checkpoint. You'll see that as well. Lots of VFR checkpoints around here, Claremont College. These are names of checkpoints that ATC will expect to use. It may not be the actual name of the place. For example, this target could have turned to something else, but that's what the name of that checkpoint is. So lots of those to look at. Let's go back to Huntington Beach Pier and just do a little airspace exercise. This is kind of fun. So if we're standing on the Huntington Beach Pier, and if you wanted to see what that looked like, we could go to the aerial map. Not Canada VNC, aerial map. Turn that off, zoom in on it, and here's the Huntington Beach Pier. So I want to tell you, we're standing not here, but that's the base of the pier, but we're standing right out here on the end of the pier. And that comes into play because the shoreline is the border of some airspace. So let's go back to the VFR sectional. And that's the point, Huntington Beach Pier. If you're standing on that, and what airspace are you in? There's a lot of airspaces going on here. On the pier, you're in class Gulf airspace until you get up to what altitude? Well, I see this pink shading here, magenta shading, that indicates class Echo down to 700 feet. So at 700 feet, I turn into class Echo airspace until I keep climbing and I hit the next altitude, which is going to be this class Charlie airspace based at 3,500 feet. Well, okay, that's great. Another way you can look at that, if you forget or you can't figure it out, is just tap and hold in that area. And now we've got, click all here so we see everything. And the first thing you see is airspace, and it goes from lower to higher. We got 3,500 to 5,400 feet. I think that's it, but I'm not sure. Let me tap on it. Yeah, that's it. That sector right there is 3,500 to 5,400 feet. It's the class Charlie for Santa Ana. Above that, I'm in up to 5,400 feet is the top of that. Well, what happens after that? What airspace am I in at the 5,500 feet here? It looks like the next one up is 7,000 in the Los Angeles class Bravo. So when you vacate this class Charlie, you're now into class Echo, class E airspace, right above that until you hit 7,000 feet. And if I tap and hold on that, we can highlight that sector of the Los Angeles class Bravo, see what it is. And you can do that even without the aeronautical section turned on. You can tap in any area, see what airspaces are there. They can just take a random area, it's like say right here, and tap and hold. And we've got the surfaced 18,000 and when you see FIR, that means Flight Information Region, or that's center, Los Angeles Center's airspace, and that's their low altitude sector. And I can zoom out and show you that's the low altitude up to 18,000 feet. That's Los Angeles Center. I can tap on the high sector. It's the same lateral boundaries, but that's the upper information region, and that's between 18 and 60,000 feet, which incidentally, 60,000 feet is the top of class Echo airspace. So going back to our pier.
Actually, the top of class Alpha airspace.
Well, it depends on where you are. Depends on where you are.
Echo.
Yeah, it depends on where you are. Let's say I was thinking about being over Hawaii, because over Hawaii there is no Alpha airspace. Little known fact. I just learned that from one of our attendees tonight. Same guy that taught me to fly. But there's a note on here. It's the only place you'll see it that tells you where class Alpha is. But you're right. I stand corrected. Class alpha go over the continental United States goes from 18 to 60,000 feet. So up to 14.5. So there's some notes on here. I'm not seeing it right off the bat, but take a look at these notes. That's another reason to bring Chart to Forward with Legends, because there's a lot of notes on there. I'm going to go back to my favorite button, the zoom to route button right here. It's going to take me back to my route because I got off of it. And now I'll zoom back in on the Huntington Beach Pier. So doing this exercise, we break out at 5,400 feet. Above that, we're in Echo until we hit the 7,000 feet base of Class Bravo. We're in Bravo until we get to 10,000 feet. We could talk about airspace and airspace requirements all day long, but remember, you need permission to enter Class Bravo, so don't enter without specific permission. There is an exception to that, though, isn't there, Mike? When can you go into Class Bravo airspace without permission and not under an emergency?
You're going to spoil my thunder. It's my favorite airspace question.
It is. I won't give it away then. You can let everybody think about it and tell them later if you want. So up to 10,000 feet, we break out of the Class Bravo. And what are we in then? Well, we're back into Echo airspace. Above 10,000, where the ceiling and visibility and airspeed rules change, actually, up till we get to flight level 180. And depending on what the barometric pressure is that day, 180 may or may not be usable. But when you hit flight level 180, now we're back into Class Alpha airspace. And like Mike corrected me, Alpha will go all the way up to 60,000 feet, 60,000 feet. Check density altitude.
And most correctly, flight level 600.
Flight level 600, correct. When I can't get to the altitude, I can call it whatever I want.
There you go.
All right, so that's all I really wanted to show on that. I also wanted to show another interesting route that if you're in Southern California, there are some, the airspace there is a nightmare. And I have in my notes from Santa Paula, SZP. Hello, everybody from Ventura County. Rather than add that to the route, I'm going to just clear this and go KSZP to L72. I'm going to put that in here so that I can see what my notes say. I don't remember why I did that. Oh, I remember why I did that. Can you fly this route? How do we get to L72? Trona, California, or Nevada? Is that California? See the restricted airspace? So this is just another thing, another easy way to tell. We see this little sector here of R2511. We know we can't fly in restricted airspace, but I'm thinking this looks like a little corridor here that I could fly through. But let's see, what does this 2511 do? So I tap and hold. I see 2511. I tap it. It highlights it to make sure that's the one I'm looking at. It's valid it exists between 6,000 and 20,000 feet, controlled by Joshua Control. So I can fly through there below 6,000 feet. So all I got to do is drag my route over to here, add that to my route, drag the route over to here, add that to my route, and fly something like that. I can make it through that. So just to know, just because you see the hash marks and the restricted airspace doesn't mean you can't get there. By the way, we have another interesting solid line around Trona Airport. What does that mean? Well, it tells us right there that the MOA, Military Operations Area, excludes the airspace below 1,500 feet, AGL and below. That means that whatever's happening in this MOA is not going to be happening below 1,500 feet in this circle. So you can fly there without having to be as diligent as you would be if you're flying out here in the MOA, which VFR pilots can, and again, IFR pilots cannot fly through the MOA unless it's not hot. Another thing that I want to do and take a look at is there are a lot of areas on here, like practice areas, aerobatic areas, and I know there's one near Redlands I'd like to look at. So let's just go to KREI, enter it, and it shows me where Redlands is. And I see here that says caution, aerobatic training from 3,500 to 75. Well, where is that? I got mountains here I don't want to cross over and I want to go inland. How do I know exactly where that is? So the process by which you would use to figure that out would be to look at what this says. See the supplemental, and it's the chart supplement is what it's talking about. Notice is Redlands. Well, all of these aerobatic areas, training areas, they're all defined in the chart supplement, and a lot of people don't know that. So let's go to Documents. I'm going to tap on the Documents tab. I'm going to go to FAA Drive. I have it saved in my ForeFlight folder, but you don't, so I'll go through the way that you should get there. FAA drive. The drives are the things you can't change. The binders are things that you create up top here. So FAA, and you can see there's chart supplements, the book formerly known as the AFD. Well, the chart supplement now contains the AFD, and the AFD is the Airport Facility Directory that contains information about the airport, and that is contained within the chart supplement. But these chart supplements have a plethora of information that it's vital to flight safety, and you need to be aware of it. So we're flying down there in the Southwest. We're going to look at that book. Turns out I have it bookmarked, but let's say I didn't. I'm on this page. I'm looking at all the airports. Where was Redlands? I saved it because I go there a lot. How did I save it? I created a bookmark. Like if I'm on this page and I want a bookmark, I just hit the little bookmark and give it a title. I don't want to save that. I just wanted to show you how to do it. So let's go to search, and there are several ways to search. We can search the entire book for any word. We can look at the table of contents, or we can look at our bookmarks. These are all the bookmarks that I've created for this book. Redlands Acro area, I've saved it as a bookmark. I'm going to tap on that, and boom, it takes me there. You can see that I've even highlighted some of it. Well, right here it tells you where it is. There's a picture of the sectional. If only they could print lines on sectionals to show you where these things are without having to go to a book and look at the lat longs. But right here it tells you, and I'm going to go ahead and annotate that. And here's how I like to annotate. I like to use straight lines because I can't draw a straight line. So I use this straight line point right here. And I'll make it yellow, a little bit opaque, so 43%. Thickness of about 15 is good for highlighting, something 14. And then pick a color yellow. And then I'll click out of that. Now, when I highlight, it's going to be a straight line. So I don't have to get it exactly straight. But if I want to highlight this, I go like that, and it snaps to a straight line. But that's where it is. It's 1 nautical mile radius of this point. So let's just put that point in now that we know how to put lat longs in. It's 3410 by 11711, north and west. I think I can remember that on the other page. Unfortunately, we can't copy. So I'm going to click done on that. So 34.1 north. I'm just going to come back to it because I want to get it right. So we're going to go to 0.1 north by 117.11 west. So it's a 1 mile radius around. Look at that. It's right on the symbol there of a glider with an A above it. Is it just gliders doing aerobatics? No, that's just the symbol for the aerobatic category. So it's a 1 mile radius around that. There are a number of ways to do radius. We've shown it before, and because we're running a little late, I'm not going to show it. But you can select it, and you can click on. Why don't I see it? I want the point.
While you're working on that, a very frequently asked question, not just in this workshop, but many others, is that when you put a bookmark in one of those documents, does it carry through when they revise that document?
Yeah, the bookmark does carry through. Now, if you save it and send it to somebody, now I understand there's a new feature where you can make it permanent or not. So you're sending your bookmarks with the document or not. But yeah, those carry through. Those bookmarks, when these books are updated, I still see my bookmarks there. Anyway, you hit more, long track offset, and then I can just hit 1 mile, insert, and there's a 1 mile point from there. And if you could, if you wanted to, go to annotate and just take a circle, and that's roughly where it is. You can go to the tool that's on our website for the circle generator, make a 1 nautical mile radius around that lat long, and do it as well. A much easier way to do it, however, would be to just go up to your layer selector and turn on the NOTAMs layer, and you'll see it appear right there on your chart. Once you do that, you can go to the Maps Settings Quick Settings gear, and then scroll down. You'll see the NOTAMs Settings submenu, and you can turn on the different NOTAMs that you want. The parachute jump zones, the aerobatic zones under Other. If you were to deselect the NOTAMs layer and then go to the Map Quick Settings gear, you'll notice that it's not even an option on there anymore. I want to get to the quiz. I want to just go because we're going to learn a lot while we're doing the ForeFlight quiz, and we'll get to the prizes. We're going to learn a lot while we're doing that as well. We're going to start looking at some things on the sectional. Here's the first question. That looks a little familiar. What is this symbol?
Looks like it's a success.
Oh, good.
results are coming in.
I wonder if the results would be that good had I not just talked about it.
I don't know. I don't know if we can compare the old results to these ones.
I know. Well, anyway, there's a few things I talked about, a few I didn't. While we're letting them come in, you can see the star up here indicates there's a beacon on the field. The tabs around the airport here indicate that there's fuel at the field. So I'll just kind of give you information as I can while we're waiting for these. It looks like everybody pretty much knows this one. It's Aerobatic. You can go ahead and end that, and I'll advance the slide to the answer. And you can see that no matter what it is, glider, hang glider, ultralight, it's going to be an image of a glider, but then the different letter will be over the top of it.
Much better results this time. I don't remember what the old answers were, but these ones are much more correct.
Yeah, much more. Looking real good. So what does this magenta circle indicate? We just talked about that, so you can go to launch the poll. Everybody's going to get that. You also notice that the VOR numbers are hashed out. We're going to talk about that too. Also notice that this is not a VOR because this is located, the Alamo VOR, or what it is a DME, on the airport. You'll see an open hole right here. That's the location of that nav aid. And because it's on an airport, they can't give you the symbol. Because they can't give you the symbol, they have to tell you right up here on the top of the box. So you'll see that some nav aids have the type of nav aid on top and some don't. That's because they sit on top of an airport. All right, you can end that poll. Our answer here is...
Still got a bunch of results coming in here.
Okay,
so
I'll leave it up to you.
there we go.
They're going to get it right now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the MOA exclusion area. MOA does not exist in that area. All right, next question. Why is that hashed out? What does that mean? Why is the frequency covered with hash lines? And just so you know, we have 19 questions, and then we'll be finishing.
Because they know I'm getting hungry. I love corned beef hash and eggs.
Yeah, I know we're running along, folks, and it's okay though. Thank you for bearing with us. I know it's late for you East Coast people, and maybe we can try and get this done early. But I really appreciate you guys hanging in there with us tonight. Looks like most of you are. It means a lot. So it looks like we've got 66, 69, 70% answered. We're getting there. It's like an hour and a half or 2 hours of all this stuff and with just peppered with information that you might learn something new. And if I learn one or two new things, then that's great. I learn while I teach. So yeah, it's a decommissioned VOR, and they're going to see more and more of those because we are getting more GPS. I noticed a lot of you said, when we were talking about going to true north, what happens if we lose our GPS? As well, you still got the compass, probably still be required because it's still giving you something. As long as you know roughly where you were when that happened, you know the variation, and you can adjust your DG back to true by putting the variation in the compass. So it's just something to think about. Okay, how about this one? What is the significance of the 8,069? Why did they choose that number to go between a round or a rectangular symbol? That one, I dug for a while, but it bothered me. Like you'd think you'd see 8,000 feet or 7,500 feet, something, of significance. Why 8,069? You'd think you'd see a cardinal number on there. Not the case.
It's not even significant in binary or base 8 or anything weird like that.
Yeah, it's not even like a square number. It's probably a prime number. It's probably maybe it's the last four of Orville's social security number. Is it the last four of Orville's social?
Yeah. Okay, we got the answer's coming a little slower on this one.
Yeah, because it's a weird one. It makes no sense. And you're gonna find out shortly.
There we go. I'll go ahead and end it, and here's the results.
All right. It's because that's the distance that fits on the icon. The runway symbols are to scale on the chart. And so if they can't fit on the icon, the round circle icon, that they want them all to be the same size, they have to make it into a rectangle. And that's, yeah, why not make them all rectangles?
They ran out of space.
Yeah. In any event, you can see we measured a round icon, and there's 8,069 feet, and just leaves just enough room for the magenta circle all the way around it. Yeah, that one too will win you a bet. No charge. Now the old, can you say older? I'm going to put you on here, Mike. You're coming on. Welcome.
All right.
So can you say older? Because I'm putting you on because we have gray hair. We know the new pilots might look at this and go, did they misprint that? Why is that upside down?
I don't know if you can see on my camera there, but let me launch this one. We'll get that one going. Yeah, the old days of the paper charts.
Yeah,
It meant something.
Mike's going to demonstrate this for us once you get the right answer. Looks like everybody knows. We got a lot of old timers here, or really, really smart people. I think my dumb answers on the other two probably help things a little bit.
I think we got a couple of smart Alex here too. Birds of our feather here, Brian. I think.
Excellent. That's what makes life worth living.
Yep. Okay, so I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but yeah, if you
Here, wait, I'll put you on full screen here.
You hold it so that the south is right side up. That's the side that when you open it will be right side up.
Yeah, if you're reading that's right side up, when you open it, it'll be right side up.
And
so we probably don't need that on
north
the
side like that. Then it's. Let's see. Can I get to where you can see something?
It's a little blurry, but it's upside down. Yeah, it's coming a little blurry. But anyway, it's the answer is it tells you which way to turn the chart before you open it. It's handy. I mean, that was a really handy feature before iPads. That was what you really wanted to have. Was you'd look at that all the time.
Otherwise, you look dumb when you pull the chart out this way and you have to spin it around.
Did you share the results of? Did you share these results or?
I thought I did. Here we go.
There we go. All right, we'll share that while I put on the next question.
I like that. Some southern hemisphere, it'll be right side up. Got a couple takers on that one.
It's just too funny not to answer. What's the closest you can get to Erie International Airport? You're flying toward it before you're in an airplane. You're in an aircraft before talking to ATC, and your radios work. And this is just a little bit of knowledge on the airspace. So, when do you need to talk to somebody?
That's a strange kind of thing. I haven't seen one of those for a while.
There's a bunch of them, actually.
Yeah. It used to be people would say they're going away, but it seemed like every time I looked at the chart, I can find more of them.
Yeah, there are more. I think they're coming back, and we're talking about a TERSA. That's what the gray airspace is, and they really would like you to communicate with them. It's basically they have the radar capability. Hey, talk to us. We can help you, but you don't have to. So in the interest of, it looks like a 50-50 here, the answer is point C. You have to be two-way radio communication before entering Charlie airspace. You could fly all day long through a TERSA without talking to anybody, but they request that you do. They're willing to help you. They have the radar service there. Why wouldn't you use it? And that's what that is. Now, what does the R indicate in the middle of this airspace? Oh, see, they're too smart.
You didn't hand out the answer code to somebody, did you?
No, this one's gotten around too much, I think.
Yeah.
Well, if just one person learns this, then our job is done.
Then we can be done, right?
And this is important, too.
It's a great stump the dummy on a check ride for California and
It is.
Nevada-based pilots.
We should have named this webinar How to Win a Beer with a Bet.
Right. Stump the jump.
Yeah. It is. Let's see. We got 73%. I'm going to go ahead and, it is in fact the R in Sierra Nevada. Sorry for that. I know that was a cheap shot, but here's the word Sierra, just showing you the word Sierra across the Sierra Nevada mountain range. Sorry.
Yeah.
So another fun one is up here near Squaw Valley. What's that?
The takeaway here is sometimes you look at it too close. If you just zoom back a little bit and get the bigger picture, sometimes you'll see stuff.
That's right. That's a good point. It's a forest for the trees kind of thing. All right, exactly. Next one, question 8, and we have 19, so we'll kind of get through this quickly. At what altitude is the base of Class Echo airspace in this location? It's out in New Mexico. I'm going to represent to you that this color, this shaded, is supposed to be blue, and it does not look blue, but it is supposed to be blue. It looks gray, but I'm telling you right now it's blue, if that helps you. And there are not too many areas like this over the United States. but this is one of them.
There used to be a lot more.
Yeah, there used to be a lot.
And every time I look at the charts, the ones that I used to have are gone and they're replaced by something else.
Yeah, and I'll tell you where there's a lot. I'll show you some when we...
These ones are trickling in slowly here, too.
Yeah. All right, I'll go ahead and click answer on here. So it's 14.5. The right side of this shading, the solid side, means that all the vignette, the shaded side, lowers Class E down to 1,200 feet above the surface. Absent that, the next airspace up is the Continental Control Area, 14,500 feet. Again, not depicted on the chart. What, you got something?
So, only 29% of people got this one right.
That's interesting. Yeah, and we don't have much blue shaded anymore. In fact, if I go to my iPad, let's see if I can find it here. Go to my iPad. You can see I put a route in here to somewhere so I can find it easily. Up here, there's a bunch. And it used to just be that this shaded area was made to protect an airway. It was 4 miles to either side of an airway until it got really far from a VOR. Then it would get wider. And these are just areas where no airways existed, which the rule about not doing aerobatics on a federal airway, you could just go find an area like this. But now this area, like right here, goes up 14.5. This area here, 1,200 AGL. If you see this zipper line, that's an exception to the 1,200 foot rule, and then they tell you what the exception is. So the base of Class Echo airspace right here is 7,500 feet MSL. If I tap and hold, does this show Echo? It doesn't.
Nope.
There's no restrictions on Echo.
No,
why does a VFR pilot care if he's in Class Echo airspace?
If I were a betting man, I'd say it has to do with the visibility and cloud clearance requirements.
No, you'd win that bet. If it's clear in 1,000,000 miles, do you care whether you're in Echo or Golf? It makes no difference whatsoever to the way you operate the aircraft. Only how far away you need to stay from clouds. Why? Because it's in controlled airspace that ATC is controlling IFR traffic. And that IFR traffic could pop out of any cloud at any time. You need to be ready, if you're in controlled airspace, Class Echo, for an airplane to pop out of the cloud. That's why 1,000 above, 500 below, 2,000 horizontal, 3 miles visibility. That's so that you can get away from that cloud or the airplane that pops out of it. And if you can't tell if you're 2,000 feet from a cloud, come on.
Yep. Hey, get your thumb out and give it your best look.
Exactly.
I'm seeing a lot of responses in both the Q&A and the chat that some people are having a hard time answering this, or they're not seeing the poll, or their submit button is not available.
Oh, really?
I don't know why this is happening. Most people are. We're getting a couple thousand people on each one are responding.
Well, it might be that it's too narrow, or they're on an iPad. Maybe, like if you drag the edge of it like this. Make it longer so you see the whole thing. You can also click on the picture. I thought you could click on the picture. Maybe not. Yep. Maybe not on my end. Anyway, I'll let you do that. Okay, what about this one? True course of 90 degrees. You're flying, you've measured it, you're flying right along that line of latitude. What would the magnetic course be? Not a trick question. I'm glad to see a preponderance of correct answers here.
Yeah, do you add or do you subtract?
Is it least or best?
Depends.
Is it offensive to say east is least?
Well, my first instructor was from West Virginia, and she taught me east is least.
You know, the toothbrush came from West Virginia.
That's true.
You know how I know that?
No, how do you know that, Brian?
As if it didn't, it'd be called a teeth brush. I'm sorry. Yep, 81 degrees. So it's 9 degrees east. East is least. So we take 9 degrees off our true course of 90 and get 81 degrees. Excellent. Most of you got that. All right. We're getting there. We're getting to the home stretch here. We're going to give away our prizes. I know we're keeping you up late. I'll try and go a little faster and quit the chit chat. What is the significance of the minus 16 as indicated in this picture?
Uh-oh, why is this one? Oh, here we go. Okay. There we go. And they're off.
And I think we're going to have to do some more gamification and have contests with places or something someday. I think it's kind of fun. Maybe like in the next ForeFlight workshop, we'll talk about we'll do quizzes on what we had on the last one. Class D is up to but not including that altitude. A minus ceiling indicates it doesn't include that value. And why is this not include 1600? Because if that part of your airplane that is at 1600 is in the base of this Bravo sector right here.
That pesky vertical stabilizer.
Yeah. What part of the airplane is it? I mean, it's measuring where the static port is, right? Or the static system. Your tail's going to be up there in Bravo if you're at... Yeah, right. All right. But directly overhead GCK, Garden City Regional Airport, Class Delta airspace goes up to what altitude? And again, here's an example where you see the VORTAC on. It says the word VORTAC on top of the VOR. Don't I have a pointer laser pen I can do here? Yeah, right here. VORTAC on top of the communications box for the VOR. Because the airport's on the air, the VOR or the Navate is on the airport, you don't have a symbol for it. Because you don't have a symbol for it, they're telling you right here it's a VORTAC. And it's located right here. That's the center. For when you had, remember you and I had sectionals, that thing you held up with the plotter that had a hole in it so you could put your pencil right on that circle and measure the 39 degrees out here.
The answers are coming in really slowly on this one. Okay, they're picking up speed now.
All right, good. It's probably because I was yapping.
So John asks, how do you judge your distance laterally to a cloud for that 2,000 feet horizontal separation?
And that's a good question. And I teach my students that if you feel like an airplane pops out of that and you can't get away from it in time, then you're too close to that cloud. So if you can't tell, you're too close. It's very difficult because clouds are all different sizes. We don't have anything to gauge it on. But just kind of picture, hey, the reason for this is that if an airplane pops out of that cloud at 250 knots, then I need to be able to avoid that. Could I? If I can't, then you're too close. As fun as it is to fly next to clouds. How are we doing on this one? I'm going to go ahead and...
Slowing down here. Here's your results.
Yeah, the answer is 2509. So we got the top of the Class D, which is 5,400 feet. Then we subtract field elevation, and we get 2509. And so that's the top. That's the top of the Class D airspace. In AGL.
Most people said 2, but not including 5,400.
So there's no minus.
Minus sign, so it's 2 and including 5,400.
That's right. 5,400 is included.
MSL.
MSL, yeah. So we got to take the field elevation off. So really you had to know how to find the field elevation, which is 2891. And that's why, they're getting
a trick question.
I know, math and knowledge, these things. Okay, number 12. Who are you going to call? You're in this area and you want to call flight service station to open your flight plan or close it or get a weather. How do you call flight service? And who? Oh, good.
They're rolling in pretty quickly on this one.
And this is something maybe, I don't know if new private pilots are being taught to do this, but my last private pilot student was required to call, make a position report, en route. And so call and open it, call and make a position report, and call and close it. Call and get the weather too. So anywhere you are, look at a VOR symbol, learn how to call flight service station. They can be of great help, even if it's just to get another frequency or find out some information. I still make my students call flight service. Still get a briefing too.
Okay. So
all right, I'm going to...
3/4 in here, so let's see what we got here.
We are going to call Wichita on 122.45. So this right here tells us the frequency. It's voice, it's two-way, and the call would sound like this. Wichita radio, this is Cessna 12345. Over the Garden City VOR 5000, calling on 122.45. And then you listen.
Good to me.
All right. Which of these is 10 nautical miles? A, B, or C?
This should be a gimme. Let's see.
Oh,
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Huh. Let's see. Well,
see how to keep people up late is dangle a Lightspeed Delta Zulu headset.
For sure.
I'm so sorry. It's almost cruel, folks. I know you're hanging in there with us, and it's getting late. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but it's fun to watch them squirm.
It is. It really is. And you know what? Sometimes we got to stay up late. All right, I'm going to post the answer here. You'll show the results. We're a bit split here, but it is A. Remember the latitude lines, think of the lines of latitude. They don't get any closer as they go up toward the pole, but the lines of longitude squeeze together. In fact, they all meet at the North Pole. So those lines of longitude are getting closer and closer together. And that's what B is the lines of longitude. C is just a dummy answer. That's your class Delta airspace. So it's A. One of those lines of latitude, 1 minute of latitude equals 1 mile. So 10 minutes of latitude is 10 miles. All right, next one. What is the base of controlled airspace right here at the tip of that arrow? The base of controlled airspace. So A, B, C, D, E, not G. We don't have F. F does exist, by the way, but not in the United States.
Not in the U.S.
So why would they put
I've
this
seen
here?
a couple of different explanations for what it means in different places. So
I think it's a controlled VFR. It's controlled VFR.
In one place I know, I forget exactly where, it was airspace that VFR was permitted, but you were required to be on a VFR flight plan.
Yeah, so it's like controlled, but I thought you had to be I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to say I don't know. All right.
Actually, I know there's some in Iceland. I have an Iceland sectional chart here somewhere, but I couldn't get to the bottom of what exactly it meant.
Yeah, we don't have it here, so unless you're going to fly in it. All right, I'm going to post the answer. Right here, you need to know a little bit of things and some math. But the top of that tower is 2982. We know that it's 1,200 feet AGL. So the point is, what's the ground level here? Well, the tower is at 2982, and it's the top of it, and it's 315 feet above the ground. So if we find that difference, we get the ground level, which is 2667, and then add our 1,200 to that for 3867. See, I'm making people know things.
Yep.
All right.
See.
Next one. 15. We've got a few more. What's the significance of this diamond-shaped symbol? I think a lot of people are learning this. Ooh, that's interesting. I take that back.
Or not.
Or not.
No takers on your coal mine joke. Though.
No.
That's pretty good.
See, yeah, I thought that was a reasonable. I mean, where did diamonds come from?
Right.
What do we got? 75%. I'm going to go ahead and advance this here in the interest of time. It's an intermittent TFR site. Anywhere you see a diamond, that means there could be a TFR there up to 3 nautical mile radius and 3,000 feet, like Disneyland, stadiums. You'll see this. This is a racetrack. Anywhere that you see a diamond, there could be a TFR there. If you're flying anywhere near one, you need to check the TFRs and make sure there isn't one there.
And they're not published in the normal place that TFRs are published, not necessarily.
They're not.
You may need to go to the stadium's website and find out when they have an activity going on.
Yeah, ForeFlight does a pretty good job of that. So since we're on ForeFlight, let's go ahead and I'll show you here. I'll select TFRs and turn those on, and we can go to like stadiums down. Here's one, that's Disneyland. That's a permanent TFR. Right, but like when Angel Stadium here, there'll be a yellow circle saying in the future there's going to be a game here. I don't know if I turn the sectional off, maybe we'll see it easier. Like here's one. Is this touch and hold it?
That's probably parachute jumping at.
Is it? It's
at Mesquite.
Yeah. The TFR, like a future one, will be yellow. And you'll see them near stadiums. I think that's probably something border related. Laughlin.
Probably.
Yeah. Any event, that's just be careful. If your route's anywhere within 3 miles of one of those diamonds, then you want to be checking to make sure. ForeFlight, well, you just turn the TFRs on in ForeFlight, you'll see them there. What is this? Those of you who fly routinely between Southern California and Las Vegas are probably bothered by this. I mean, get to see this quite a bit. And it would appear
Yeah, I heard one time there was a military, I want to say it was a C-130 or something. A guy looks up, sees that, disconnects the autopilot, and takes evasive action
Wow.
at in the high 20s or something.
Yeah, that's dangerous. I'm going to go ahead and advance it. The answer is it's the Ivanpah Solar Power Facility. It's you can't miss it on a sunny day. In fact, the sun's going to hit you from anywhere. Here's a picture of what it looks like, and it's very bright. So it's just solar glare is possible there, and it's no kidding. We can see that, when I'm flying to LA from out east, I can see that almost a couple hundred miles away.
Yep.
How about this? Inside that circle, we got this symbol here.
Oh, well, this was a gimme.
Yeah, people know. And also, those are the symbol for railroad tracks. And when we zoomed in and looked at that on Google Earth, we could see that, yeah, the railroad tracks are there to move things in and out on that, which is pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and looks like most people got that one right. Radio telescope. And we've both seen that from the air. Mike took this picture when he was when he was going to Oshkosh, was it?
No, it was Wichita, actually, a tour of the Cessna plant.
Oh, cool.
Was that that trip?
Is that 1,000 above, 500 below, and 2,000 horizontal? Or are you on an IFR flight?
It was 2,000 horizontal, and that was about a half a mile or more off to the side there. It was
Okay,
great.
that's what I was measuring. But you can see it here. It's an interesting thing to see, and if you look it up online, it's a pretty cool thing. It looks like that, and I think the movie Contact was filmed. They filmed some of the scenes there.
Partially there, yep.
Yeah. All right, just two more. What does that symbol mean?
Let's see. That's where the UFOs go, right?
Yeah.
Or that's not one of the answers. Oh, man.
That would have been a good one. UFO sighting? UFO landing site?
Have you seen the Intergalactic Spaceport Airport?
I have not seen it. No, I've heard of it, and I've seen it on the chart. Wow.
Let's see.
So we got a pretty good split here, too.
Yeah, we do.
Yep, this, in fact, it means it's an unconfirmed airport. There may not be an airport there. It's just unconfirmed, that's all. So if you see that, don't count on there being a place to land if you in an emergency.
Yeah, nobody's been there in a very long time.
Yeah, right. Last question. And then we're going to give away our stuff and we'll say goodnight. What does the T mean?
It's pausing time in a cricket match. Time for tea.
Yeah, is it temporary? Determined by a tower. We're not fooling them on this one. People know. Mostly. Except that one guy. There's 4 people left tonight. And we got 8 prizes. I'm not quite sure how we're going to hand. So I'm kidding. Yeah, you guys, most of you got that right. It's up to but not including the floor of Class Bravo airspace. That's it.
We got some more work to do on sectional chart interpretation, though, don't we?
Yeah, well, we'll do some more of this. It's kind of fun. Maybe it's not necessarily ForeFlight related, but it's very important for us all to know these things. You can go to ForeFlightWorkshops.com to see all of the content and everything that we've had. And there's a link to that website, this website that has all the resources for tonight's program that you might want to look at. And the link to the recording will be there. It'll be in the email that you receive and everything as well. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the description below and take the short quiz for Wings Credit. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next month on April Fool's Day. No kidding. I'm not kidding. Seriously, It's going to be on April Fool's Day. We will see you then. And then again, we'll be here all month. Don't forget to tip your waiters. If you feel like throwing us a buck to help cover this, we appreciate it. Again, we're not being paid for it. We're volunteering to do this. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next month.